John Hunt, a well-known BBC horse racing commentator, speaks to a man named Kyle Clifford, a killer who's just been sentenced for the murders of 3 of his family members.
The 26-year-old has pleaded guilty to 3 counts of murder, a charge of false imprisonment, and 2 counts of possession of offensive weapons.
The emergency services were called to a house in Ashton Close, Bushey, shortly before 7 o'clock yesterday evening. The 3 women were found with serious injuries and were pronounced dead at the scene.
You first killed her mother, Carol. You raped and killed Louise, who'd been as gentle as she could in ending her relationship with you. Then you murdered Hannah Hunt, who had done nothing to harm you.
John's wife, 61-year-old Carol, his daughter and ex-girlfriend of the killer, 25-year-old Louise Hunt, and a second daughter as well, 28-year-old Hannah.
Britain is reeling tonight after the wife and 2 daughters of a well-known BBC sports commentator were killed in a shocking triple murder.
Well, the evidence really against Kyle Clifford was overwhelming. He had previously admitted to all the charges against him, and that was the murder of his ex-girlfriend Louise Hunt.
Screams were heard as Kyle Clifford carried out extreme acts of violence against his ex, Louise Hunt, 25, her mum, Carol, 61, and sister Hannah, 28.
Here are the horrifying details. On a seemingly ordinary day, June 26, 2024, a relationship ended. Louise Hunt told her boyfriend, Kyle Clifford, that it was over.
You know, her mother and her sister were killed in front of her, as some sort of, revenge.
As a result of restraining his ex-girlfriend Louise Hunt and raping her on the 9th of July in 2024.
His behavior and views had become too much to bear. She hoped he would accept it, and at first it appeared he did. But in the days that followed, Kyle Clifford began a meticulous and terrifying shopping spree. He wasn't buying gifts or groceries. He was purchasing tools of pure malice.
Certainly, the manner of death, using a crossbow and I assume a knife too, from what I've read in the news report.
This is not something that happens in Bushey. We've never can't remember a murder in our rather quiet neck of the woods. So terrible shock.
Today, Clifford received a whole life sentence, which is fitting for the appalling nature of his crimes.
A Horizon Cornet MXT 405 compound crossbow with 6 bolts, a butcher knife, and large quantities of petrol, duct tape, and rope. He was preparing for a final act of utter contempt. The day of the attack was July 9th. Clifford parked near the Hunt family home and waited, watching for cars in the driveway. He even used his phone to check if Louise's father, the BBC horse racing commentator, was home. At precisely 2:32 p.m., he approached the front door with a knife hidden in his rucksack. The doorbell camera captured the conversation. Her mother, Carol Hunt, showed him kindness and let him in. For that kindness, he stabbed her to death. Clifford waited for Carol to die. Then he went back to his car. At 3:07 p.m., he returned to the house, this time concealing the crossbow under a blanket. Louise was at work, a dog grooming business in an outbuilding on the property. Clifford waited again, lurking until she came inside at 4:11 p.m. Shortly after, the calm was shattered by high-pitched screams and male shouting. For hours, Clifford held Louise captive, harming and raping her. He even used her phone to ask her father when he would be home. His cruelty was only matched by his bizarre planning. He searched online if unplugging a smoke detector would work. He was allegedly planning to burn the house down. At 6:49 p.m., a call came to Carol's phone. It was her other daughter, Hannah, on her way home. 1 minute later, at 6:50 p.m., Clifford shot Louise through the back with the crossbow. Seconds later, Hannah entered the home, calling for her mother. She went upstairs, and there she saw Clifford. Her fear turned to screams as she realized the horror before her. At 6:52 p.m., she messaged her boyfriend, called the police. 2 minutes later, Clifford shot her with the crossbow. Police arrived just before 7 p.m. They found both Hannah and her mother Carol dead. Louise was alive for a brief time before also being pronounced dead. As police began their investigation, Clifford was already in a desperate flight for his life. He drove towards his own home, eventually hiding out overnight in a cemetery nearby. At one point, he attempted to create a noose, but the rope and branch were too weak. It was an act of pathetic desperation, not genuine remorse. After a 22-hour manhunt, police tracked him down. As armed officers and a police dog closed in on him, Kyle Clifford shot himself in the chest. It was a final, cowardly act. The crossbow was recovered and he was taken to the hospital. He survived. The judge delivered his verdict, choosing to spare the family any further suspense. He addressed Clifford directly.
You first killed her mother, Carol, who even on that day showed you nothing but kindness. You raped and killed Louise, who'd been as gentle as she could in ending her relationship with you. Then you murdered Hannah Hunt, who had done nothing to harm you, save supporting her little sister.
This was the horrifying timeline of a crime fueled by nothing but what the judge described as self-pity. At Cambridge Crown Court, Mr. Justice Benathan left no room for doubt. He sentenced Clifford to 3 life sentences with 3 whole life orders, meaning he will never be released from prison. In their victim impact statements, the surviving family members and loved ones of the victims painted a picture of pure evil. John Hunt, with astonishing courage, stood and spoke of Clifford's true nature. His other daughter, Amy, called Clifford a monster, and what he did to her sister, nothing short of demonic. Hannah's boyfriend, Alex Klein, called him a coward who would suffer a miserable fate for eternity. The judge described Clifford as a man soaked in self-pity who held women in utter contempt, and he noted the gentle heroism of the women he killed. In the end, justice was swift and absolute. As the final sentence was passed, a grieving family embraced, their courage a stark contrast to the darkness that had descended on their lives. What are your thoughts on this devastating series of events? Stay tuned for more murder, motive, and mayhem